us up at WCDBradio.com.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark the talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense. Just by talk, so people make we talk. Yeah. We're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Another conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark the talk and you will see.
Good afternoon, whoever listening, watching from around the world in the Eastern Caribbean. This is WZPP 96.1 FM and WZOP 92.7 FM. We're coming to you live from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Miami. I am Jeffrey T. with Make We Talk. This afternoon we have with us, our special guest is Dr. Dr. Taylor. Dr. Taylor, you hear me?
Yes, Jeffrey.
Yes, welcome to Make We Talk, sir. I do apologize to you. I saw to lose concentration a while ago. I'm sorry, sir. How are you doing?
Not too bad, you know, about yourself.
I am doing lovely, sir. I'm doing good. I am doing good.
Good to hear.
Dr. Taylor, we're going to talk about the beaches in Jamaica. I know you at one point you put a lawsuit against the Jamaican government pertaining to the beaches. Can you give us some more outline of what is going on? And also, I know the Constitutional Reform Committee. There was a town hall meeting in Portland a couple of days ago, and the Minister of Constitution, Honorable Marlon Marrowford, said something pertaining that they will draft a new constitution where the beaches in Jamaica will have some say in it. Can you give us some more of what is going on, sir?
Yes. So, you know, greetings to the listeners. You know, I mean, big respect to all the, you know, ones in the diaspora who are making significant contribution to Jamaica, and many of whom would go back home to their communities and then realize that they can't really access these beaches because, you know, there is just massive commercialization along the coastline and no provisions have been made for Jamaicans. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I myself is a member of one of those communities. I'm from the Steertown community that is just, you know, a couple miles out of Ocho Rios.
Yes.
Now, you know, what we have put in place is a movement called the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, JABEM. And JABEM remit is really trying to open back up the access, you know, beach access, you know, for Jamaicans, you know, to really regain access for their recreation and their spiritual and their economic needs, because we have lost most of the access, you know, across the island. You know, it is, you know, 493 miles around Jamaica, and we have less than 3 miles of access. Mm-hmm. So there is a crisis and there's a problem. So the impacted communities, and you mentioned about the court cases, we have 3 of these court cases right now in Jamaica, and those cases are aim to really regain access for fishing and for recreation for Jamaican communities. And I'll go through those cases. The first case that we had, we got in the course was Bob Marley Beach. Bob Marley Beach is located in Bull Bay, St. Thomas. It's right on the border of St. Thomas, St. Andrew. And last year, that community, was in high alert because a developer was moving in to displace the community. And that's an historically very important space, as the name Bob Marley Beach signifies. It's a space that Rastafari and Bingis we have been using since the 50s. And so there's a lot of cultural and heritage perspective. So we filed a prescriptive rights case in the courts, and the plaintiff or the communities in and around the Bob Marley Beach, and the defendant is the Commissioner of Lands, which is the Jamaica government, and the private developer known as Wolf Group Limited. And what we are seeking there is to protect conservation easement so the population will have access to that. So yes, we have that case there. We have another case in Mama Bay. This one is against private developers only, and this is a beach that the Steer Town and the Mama Bay South community have been using for more than 100 years for their spiritual.
Dr. Taylor, let me ask you this question. I know you're explaining to us, but for the interest of time, because we won't have an hour on the program here. Let me ask you this question, Dr. Taylor. What Jamaicans are facing now is that the beaches that they normally go to relax and have a good time is being taken away from them and being, sold off to the people of the upper range of society. So in other words, pretty soon the beaches like Negril and Blue Lagoon and all those places, Jamaicans won't be allowed to go on those beaches.
Right. The trend is pointing that we're going to be a landlocked country. And so, yes, they have been sold off, they have been privatized, and there are restrictions in place because the privatization does not leave any access points for the public. And ones who live in Negril would have seen that over the years, those properties are sold, and the points that they use to access the beach are decreasing over time. So we will get into a situation, in a couple of years where it's already bad, it's going to get worse. And so we have to really try to stop that and actually reverse it. And that's what JABEM is doing it. And we're using litigation, but advocacy. And that's what we're doing on your program now, is reaching out to Jamaicans who live in the diaspora, to reach out to Jamaicans who live back home, because we're connecting with both all the families and saying that this cannot continue. We cannot continue to live on an island and unable to access the beaches, access the river as free as we want to access them. And so JABEM is really going into the course and forcing these developers and forcing the government to recognize the rights of Jamaicans to access the beach and use these spaces. So the Mama Bay case is in the court, and the most recent one we got into the court now is Little Duns River. Little Duns River, as we know, is right beside Big Duns River. And most Jamaicans cannot afford the $2,000-$3,000 to pay to get into Big Duns River. So they go to Little Duns River, they use the waterfalls, and they use the beach there. Mm-hmm. And so that piece of property is allegedly owned by the Urban Development Corporation, UDC, which is a government entity. Right. So again, we are taking the government to court in order for the government to recognize the rights of its own citizens to recreation. Its rights of its own citizens to fishing, its rights of its own citizens to bathe in the sea, its rights of its own citizens to walk along the shore. So we have a problem. We have a beach access problem in Jamaica, and the government of Jamaica is complicit in terms of restricting the population access to the beaches.
Dr. Taylor, so you're saying to me, because we're live on a Caribbean radio station in the United States here. WZPP 96.1 FM in Miami and WZOP 92.7 FM in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And Jamaicans are listening to us right now. That what you're saying to me now is that the government of Jamaica, and by the way, the Prime Minister of Jamaica has the ability, with the stroke of a pen, to stop certain things that is going on in our country pertaining to the beaches, But nothing is being done. And that is why Jabem, along with Dr. Taylor, decide to take the relevant authority to court. It cannot be that Jamaicans cannot access their own beach, but yet we promote hotels on the 7 Mile Beach in Negril, and we promote Blue Lagoon, and we promote other beaches, and Jamaicans are having difficulties going to their beaches. Now tell me something now, Dr. Taylor. All these court filing that you have put towards the government in Suriname and so forth, how far has it reached? What is going to become of those suits, sir?
So, and so I should explain, the law under which we are entering and quoting. So there is this statute known as the Prescription Act, and it basically dictates that if you have been using a track, a roadway, or a path to enter, the beach or to enter a river, and you've been doing so for 20 years minimum without any obstructions, right? Then you have the right to go to the courts, prove to the court that you have been using these tracks and this roadway to the beach, and then the court have to recognize your rights, and your rights will now be forever in perpetuity. So that's our 1832 law that we're using. Now, how far has we gotten? In the case of Bob Marley Beach, the case has been called up twice in the courts. The first time, none of the defendants showed up. The second time, the Commissioner of Land showed up. And so the case is coming up back in early September that we're going to go back into the court. The Mama Bay case have been called up 3 times. We had a mentioned date. Another date was determined that we go back into the court, to kind of determine how many witnesses that we're going to bring into the court. And now that case is set for July the 27th, that the community of Mama Bay goes back into the court to really, provide list of witnesses and also, some other evidence, in the court. So that one is progressing. The Little Duns River case, if my memory is correct, is the 21st of September that we will go into the court for the first time to really start the process. So the cases are progressing. But as the case progresses, we are continuing this advocacy because there are a lot more beaches in Jamaica that are at risk, of really, Jamaicans being displaced. It happens very often across the island, and not only ones that are at risk, but ones that we want to really, pull back in. So Reggae Beach in Ocho now is fenced off. That beach access is shut down.
So hold on there for me, Dr. Taylor. Reggae Beach in St. Ann. You don't have any idea who owns Reggae Beach in St. Ann?
Well, that beach, as reported in the media, was, I think, the Barita Group of Company are now the owners of that space. So when you really look across the island, you do see it's not only foreign multinational corporation, but there are also Jamaican investors who are in the business of displacing their own countrymen, off these spaces. And it is wrong. I will go into the legislation that allows that to happen. But you have a question for me?
But Dr. Taylor, what I don't understand, it amazes me. It amazes me because I live in the Cayman Islands for many years. And the Caymanians are allowed to walk the 7 Mile Beach. The 7 Mile Beach is as beautiful as the 7 Mile Beach in Negril. And they're allowed to walk the 7 Mile Beach in Georgetown, Grand Cayman. Okay? And the West Bay Road that goes up to from Georgetown to West Bay. They're allowed to walk the 7 Mile Beach. And you're saying to me now that pretty soon the Jamaican people, the Jamaicans who in Negril back in the days, they're the one who facilitate hippies to come down to Negril The people in Negroil come out of their houses and give to the hippies to live for the time they're going to be there. And you're saying to me right now that what is going on, that pretty soon Jamaicans won't be allowed to go on the beaches. Reggae beaches being closed off, and you hear nothing from the government, Kananapong. You hear nothing from the opposition, Kananapong. So what should the Jamaican people be doing now, Dr. Taylor? As a Jamaican citizen who is fighting for your fellow Jamaicans to have access to the beaches, what do you think the Jamaican people should be doing? Should we be petitioning the government, or should we be putting up some advertisement overseas to say to the people overseas, you all can access the beach, but Jamaicans can access the beaches? That's what we should be doing?
So, yes, it's a mixed approach. And why it have to be a mixed approach right now is that there's a law in Jamaica called the Beach Control Act of 1956. So it's a colonial era law. And that colonial era law never gave Jamaicans general rights of access, to the beach, for fishing, for swimming, for bathing, and to walk along the shores. The law is discriminatory against the Jamaican people. So we are advocating for that law to be removed from our system. And we are asking for constitutional protection. And I'll segue into the constitutional issue in just a second.
Yes.
But what the diaspora and what Jamaicans, should be doing is to really engage in, our MPs, but also, talking among ourselves in our community about this legislation, that it needs to go, because it is on the books, it allows for the displacement, is because we don't have the fundamental rights written into our laws. Now, in other jurisdictions that you just talk about, like the Cayman, it is the same case in Barbados, in St. Lucia, in St. Kitts and Nevis, all across the Caribbean. They have that right, to access their beaches, and we do not have it. And it is written in legislation that we don't have it. So the fundamental thing that we need to do is to change the law. And so we're advocating for that. The other thing that the diaspora can really do, all right, if they can help us in terms of all these legal actions that we're taking, they can help us to really fund that legal campaign, so we get more of these into the courts and protect what we have there, right? So that's one thing that they can also do. The other thing that they can do, you should avoid going to resorts that do not allow average Jamaicans to really use the beach. So I know many of us vacation and will go back home, and ones who do not really go back into their village or want to take their family, to a beachfront thing. You need to avoid resorts that don't allow Jamaicans to really access the beach and use the sea. These are fundamental actions that you can take. That power is yours to say, I'm not going to stay at Hotel XY because when I'm not here, my uncle, my auntie, my grandmother cannot walk across the street and dip our foot in the ocean. So what may I stay at your business for? We need to be serious if we want change. We have to protest in these ways. So those are some of the fundamental things that they can do. What we have also been doing, and I am the president of JABEM, is that we have made it clear to the Constitutional Reform Committee that this legislation is discriminatory, and the fact that Jamaicans do not have rights of access, general rights of access to the beaches, then that is also a violation of Jamaicans' human rights. And as a result, we want constitutional protection. We want this to be written into the Constitution that we have that right to our ecological heritage, the right to our beaches, the right to our rivers. We need the right to our streams, the right to our lagoons. We need the right to our lakes. We need the right to our waterways, because fundamentally that is part of our, fundamental right and freedom. And so we're demanding that. The Constitutional Committee says they will invite us to give a submission, and hear us out as to how we think this can be done.
As you touch on the Constitutional Committee, there's a gentleman who He's a Rastafarian who wrote a constitution. He looked on the Jamaican constitution, and he and a group of people got together and wrote a different constitution for Jamaica. And at the town hall meeting, I think it's in Mandeville, or somewhere else, I can't remember exactly where it was. He spoke to the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs and said to her, I want to have audience with you with a copy of this constitution. That was from what? He killed Philip and Philip dead. Now, at a town hall meeting in Portland a couple of days ago, the same gentleman went back to the town hall meeting and said to the Minister of Constitutional Legal Affairs that he has this thing that he wants to sit down and have dialogue with her. So, if he can't get dialogue with her, you believe he's going to get dialogue with her, Dr. Taylor?
Well, I mean, Dr. Nadine Spence, and I should say in this forum that I commend Dr. Nadine Spence because she, in response to my brother Wilborn Carr, who also raised this issue, I talk about you're talking about Ely McHale Kojo.
Yes,
I know the bridging I refer to. But Dr. Wilburn, Mr. Wilburn Carl, which we work with very closely in the Blue Lagoon area, actually raised that question, and so Dr. Spence responded by saying that she is also troubled by what is happening in terms of beach access. She cited the Barbados model, and she points towards our history of just colonialism and the hurt that has on the society, and that she one of the first group that she identified to really come into the space and have this discussion is Jabem. So I have to trust her word that she's sincere and that she will actually give us that space there. Now, my brother Haile McHale Kojo has been making the rounds, and he has written this constitution before this iteration of constitutional reform is now in the air, and he's advocating for them to give him that time, and he is very determined. And so he follows that constitutional consultation around the island, and he's pleading his case. My hope is that they will take this brother seriously and sit down with him and hear him out. And you have to be persistent. And that's one of the jobs that advocacy is very difficult, because some people, will just kind of like blow you off, but, others, you keep at it over time, and this is in the public good, this is something that the society needs to have, then you will break through. And so we are breaking through, but we need more commitment from our brothers and sisters out there to join in this advocacy for beach access rights.
We're speaking to Dr. Taylor about the beach rights in Jamaica. I am Jeffrey Chin, make we talk, we'll be right back.
Don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people. Make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark the talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leader.
You're listening to WVOP 92.7 LP.
The right tires for the road at Express Tire Plus. Express Tire Plus, aka the Pit Stop, at 2496 Southwest 57th Avenue in West Park. Simple patch and plug, new and used tires, high-speed balance and rotation, alignment check, and more. We do it all at Express Tire Plus at 954-588-1140. WZOP would like to thank Express Tires for their kind contribution to this station. Strengthen the link with your family back home in Jamaica now with topupflow.com. The 7-day and 15-day plans come with more data and talk than ever. 8 gigabytes and 40 minutes with the Flow 7-day plan, or 10 gigabytes and 70 minutes of international talk with the Flow 15-day plan. Available exclusively on topupflow.com or the Top Up Flow app on iOS and Android. Flow gives pure value with no additional fees when you buy straight from the source. Thanks to Flow for your support for this radio station. Marshall Montana.
The second place. Shansia and her band. For performance by Spice, the queen of dancehall.
Performance Rock Radio.
Mascot.
Everybody. Almost Woman Live at BRT Weekend in Atlantic City, New Jersey. July 7th through 9th. On the beat. All inclusive. Marshall Montana.
Shansia.
That's the best.
Spice.
Voice Radio.
Mascot. Now at brtweekend.com.
Thanks BRT for your support for this radio station.
Buying or selling your home? Looking for a reliable, honest realtor? Angela Rowe of the Barrett Group is here to help. She can provide assistance with first-time homebuyer programs, hero special programs, and grant applications. Realtor Angela Rowe of the Barrett Group can be reached on her personal cell phone at 954-294-6304. That's 954-294-6304. Angela can be found online at angela.barrettrealtors.com. Her office is located at 4977 North State Road 7 in Tamarack. Angela Rowe, Realtor of the Barrett Group. Thank you, Angela Rowe, licensed Realtor, for your sponsorship of this station.
Want a good mechanic? A&R Auto Dealers located at 2210 Mears Parkway in Market is the place. A&R at 786-314-0305. They are certified mechanics and general auto repair dealers. A&R Auto Dealers is now having a holiday on a number of their services. Tune-up oil change using synthetic oil blend, AC check with repairs starting at well below market price. Tire rotation, braking system repair, engine checks, and transmission check. They do the best quality bodywork on any type of car and with extended warranty. They are A&R Auto Dealers at 786-314-0305, located at 2210 Mears Parkway in Market.
WVOP want to thank A&R Auto for your support. Check engine light on, car overheating, need tires. For over 37 years, Smalley's Tire and Auto Repair is the go-to place, specializing in rim repairs, new and used tires, plugs, patches, starters, alternators, front-end work, wheel alignment, and more. Smalley's Tire and Auto Repair, 1001 West Sunrise Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale. For info, 954-525-9157. WZPP thanks Smalley's Tire and Auto Repair for your support. Juice Wheels Tires and Service takes care of your car. They do full brake service, vehicle tuning, battery check, oil change, tire replacement, belt and hose replacement, and much more. For more information, 954-486-2252, 954-486-2219. Located at 3653 Northwest 19th Street, Lauderdale Lakes, 33311. Mondays to Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sundays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. WZPP thanks Juice Wheels, Tires, and Service for their contribution to this station. Sales rep and telemarketers needed. WZPP, WZOP, WHRT, and Flex TV have openings available for you. Are you in the retail world and have a desire to succeed? Trustworthy, motivated, and have strong communication skills? We would like to hear from you. CVs can be emailed to wzppradio@gmail.com or 954-870-7956. That's wzppradio@gmail.com or 954-870-7956.
For more info, hit us up at wzppradio.com.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough,
Welcome back to Make We Talk on WZPP 96.1 FM and WZOP 92.7 FM. And also welcome back to my friends and family on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Dr. Taylor, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome back to the program, Dr. Taylor. Dr. Taylor, you know, when on the commercial break, somebody asked me a question that I have to ask you. If all of this is going on in Jamaica, and Jabem is the lone voice that is speaking out about the beaches, Do you think that Jamaicans just give up on everything?
Well, I mean, there's a level of despair, but I should say, that we are not the first and we're not the only one. Historically, the populations that have been impacted have been really talking up. It's just that their voice has just not been amplified. And throughout history, we have had several ones, and who continue to, like Dr. Colin Cooper, who writes a lot in the newspaper about it. We have had, Esther Figueroa, who has made films about it. John Maxwell has written extensively about it. We have Kabu Mahad Karu from IRFM, and Amber, they have also been lending their voice throughout the years. IRFM have also been a really fierce advocate for beach access rights, and we have the Jamaica Environmental Trust through, Diana McCullough, who has also been making these calls. What Jabem has been able to do right now is what we're trying to do is to mobilize the community, get all these voices into one portal, and then make a big shout to the world. It's almost like, silently we are drowning and no one is listening.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are trying to mobilize ourselves to say that you need to listen to us because our communities are feeling the pain. The displacement and the dispossession from coastal spaces is one that is actually, I think, is a human rights violation, because recreation under the United Nations Convention is considered as a human right. And so when you do these restrictions, you are actually restricting Jamaicans to express themselves, to really get their R&R, their spirituality. We use it for baptism, for economic and food security. It's been used by official folks for just generations and generations.
But not only that, when people are stressed out with government and stressed out with a private life, they go to the beach and they relax.
Yes. So it's really needed. Right now Jamaica has just a heat wave going on, and there's a lot of water issues across the island. Now when I talk to ones in my village, them say, boy, the village hot, but we don't have no beach to go to. They have to trot all the way down to Paris to get a squeeze in down there, and they can't afford the prices in Ochi to go to beach. So it is a problem down there, and I think it is within the interest of Jamaicans abroad and abroad to really help make this sound here. So the thing needs to change, and it needs to change right now. The model of tourism that we practice in Jamaica, and this was pointed out by U Small, who sat on the Constitutional Committee, that the problem in Jamaica is the kind of tourism that we practice in Jamaica. What kind of tourism we practice in Jamaica? Everybody knows it. It's a mostly all-inclusive tourism model, where when a hotelier buy a piece of property on the coast, they fence it off, lock everybody out. And those visitors who go there don't even leave. And if they do leave, it's a trip that is organized by the hotel. And so the community that is across the road from the hotel no longer can use the beach. Florida, we are here from right now. Anybody in Florida right now, can just go down on the beach. South Beach wide open. Anybody can park the car, go down there with their family. You can't do that in Jamaica. So why we can do that in the States? And then you go back home to accept that. Or you either go back home and you participate in that. You go stay at all-inclusive hotel and you know so your family member them can't go there. You know what I mean? And them can't, if either of them have a day pass system, they can't afford it. So that model is just not workable for, the ordinary Jamaica. We can't afford it. It's fundamentally wrong and it's a violation of rights. And we have to say it. And we need everybody to say it. So Jabem alone can't say it. We need all of the items to say it. So when ones even establish Airbnb businesses in Jamaica now, where they're on the coast, we shall your visitors them go use the beach. But not have nowhere to go. So your business model that ones who are investing in EMB having a problem. It cannot continue. If we have to stop it, and so you join up with Jabem, give this thing your voice out there, shout at them and say this must stop.
Dr. Taylor.
When them come forward, come beg money from us for them election, and all of them fancy consulate where them set up around here, write to them and ask them, why is it that Jamaicans don't have general rights of access. Listen, there is power in the diaspora. There's more than 3 million of us in the US, in Canada, in England. We send back billions of dollars in our remittances. We bail the country out completely over COVID. The amount of barrel, the amount of healthcare missions that go back to Jamaica, the amount of school supplies, the amount of farming supplies. I mean, the amount of money we spend, and plus we bring artists coming afar and spend worth of money to bring them here. We're funding the economy through remittances, through our, all our investment we're doing in Jamaica. So then tell me, why is it that we don't have a voice in the policies that is impacting our lives and our family member lives? There is power, and we need to seize that power and ask for the general and unfettered right of access to our beaches and to our rivers, and we can get that done.
Dr. Taylor, who have the power now to say, you know what, if you're buying a beachfront property, and by the way, it was brought to my attention that the government, all in the name of road, gave a foreign entity that own a foreign construction company how much acres of beachfront land. I can't believe myself secret. This morning.
No, it's not secret. It's not secret. Yes, right next to Old Fort there, I think it's probably around 30 acres of land was transferred over to Chinese Harbour Engineering Company, which is a Chinese entity that building the road. But remember, Jamaica entered into a deal that I think they're going to give them 1,200 acres of land. So everybody thinks that the road that is built by Chinese in Jamaica is actually free. It's not free. There are tons of concessions being given to them. They have over 65-year lease that they're collecting a very expensive toll. You can't drive on the road. They're more expensive than tolls in the United States. So the government is in the policy also of transferring state assets, lands under the crown ship to private entity and then black Jamaican out. So this is why I said they are complicit. And so you are asking who, control the power around beach rights and access.
Yes.
So let's lay it out, right? Let's lay it out. So the Beach Control Act of 1956, right? It's a legislation where the regulatory body for that act is the National Environmental Planning Agency, which is NEPA, right? That manages aspects of that. And then there is this the National Regulatory Commission, right? That sees through with all the applications of that law. That falls in the office of the Prime Minister. Now that document says the minister is the head, okay? Under whatever minister it falls, the minister who is the head of that portfolio is the one that controls that policy and can dictate anything within that policy. And
that happened to be the Prime Minister of Jamaica.
And that is the Prime Minister of Jamaica. So the Prime Minister of Jamaica can mandate easement. He can basically say, I need these lands for these beaches. He can really proactively says, the community has been using this space forever, so even though this hotel is going to be here, there needs to be a provision for the community to access the space. So he can do that because he's the head of the Beach Control Act of 1956. But it's not been done. And so Jamaicans have to ask themselves the question, why? Why? Because the model of tourism that we're practicing in Jamaica is not practiced anywhere else. So the notion that Jamaicans cannot share the same beach with tourists, but they want to live foreign with all different nations, and we move up and work and go to beaches and do everything with them, they're saying that are the policy, the operations that we see in all inclusive is apartheid-like, because Jamaicans do not mix with foreigners in these spaces. And that is the model that we really is projecting to the world. And our leaders are actually maintaining that in our country in 2023. Can you believe it? That we can share the same beaches them as tourists? What kind of madness is that? And the contradiction is that you see a more integrated product in Negril. As much as all the access points are being cut down there, there is a more integrated product in Negril that you can go on the beaches at certain points and you can walk along the shores at certain points and enjoy the space. And there are foreigners in the space. And you can see this happening, you know, when you go to like in Portland and in Winifred Beach there, you will see an integrated model there as well. And that's one of the spaces that was won in the courts as well. I mean, the Winifred Benevolent Beach Society had to take the Jamaican government, namely the UDC, into the courts to really gain access to that space.
So Dr. Taylor, the culprit here is, if I may use this word over there, they don't charge me for it, is really the UDC.
It's more than the UDC because Commissioner of Lands, you know, all lands that are controlled by the government, which is, you know, they say crown land, are vested in the Commissioner of Lands. So I guess the Commissioner of Lands and crown lands are one and the same, and that is the government. So UDC own property, I mean Commissioner Land own property, and there may be other government entities that may own also properties along the space, because sometimes they will give some lands to housing ministry, I mean, and so forth. But the government land should not bar Jamaicans, you know what I mean? And Jamaica, I mean, we should not be restricted as to which beach we go to.
In the interest of time, I want to ask you this question. They're drafting a new constitution in our country. Now we must go republic. Everybody know my take on the whole republic issue on my YouTube channel and so forth, and other radio stations. I want to ask you this question, Dr. Taylor. Do you believe that this constitution they have now, they should just disband this old British constitution and draft a constitution for the people of Jamaica, in the sense of look at the whole beach issue that we're facing now? Do you believe that they should draft a brand new constitution and forget about amending the old constitution to put in this and to put in that? Dr. Taylor?
Yes. I think we need a radical shift in terms of the development of a constitution. Now, I'm no constitutional lawyer. I would do support a brand new constitution from scratch. I mean, I tell you that much. All right, that would be the best for the country, in which a governance framework is developed. And I think the Advocate Network, which is Jabem is also part of the Advocate Network, is lobbying for some real strong changes to the existing constitution, because you know you deal with the hands that you're dealt and you put the best forward, and that they are really advocating for some serious changes. But I think yes, a brand new constitution would serve Jamaica very well. But it's all about what we put in it. All right? And if we are going to amend the one that we have right now, we cannot be cosmetic about it. And so for me, just removing the King of England from the Constitution and replace that with a President of Jamaica is merely cosmetic. What I would want to see is the decolonization of the Jamaican Constitution. So legislation like the Beach Control Act, which is a colonial era legislation, is not the only thing that we need to remove. There are other, legislation. Property Vesting Act of 47 needs to go. There's Mining Act that needs to go. There's so many different acts that are old. That serve colonial interest.
In other words, those acts are from the 18th centuries that has not been amended by the government of Jamaica.
Absolutely. Do not serve the interest of Jamaicans, right? And also we're in an era of environmentalism, that we know that environment is most important for the survival of humanity. So a constitution needs to take that into consideration. As progressive as the Bolivian or the Ecuadorian constitutions are, and the Chilean constitution that really takes environmental matters very seriously. And I speak from that perspective because, I'm very cognizant about the future of our people. And we live on an island where climate change is really an issue, and sea level rise it's a major problem in coastal towns in the United States too. And I'm sure people in Florida are seeing changes to the coastline. So when we look at a country like Jamaica, so small, we need to be protecting our coastline. And the current tourism model that we have in Jamaica is highly degradative of the environment, because we chop down everything off of the coast and then we build these big areas for just what? For just sunbathing, and all the natural vegetation is gone. We rip out mangrove forests and we dump them up. We steal tons of sand from one hotel and move it to another one. So the business that we have about environmentalism, as far as the degradation is concerned, is a serious one. And Jamaica also lives in its policy now another conservation advocacy, that we need to be protecting these spaces. We need to free these spaces, democratize them so people can access them, and so we can protect the environment. We have a lot of work to do, and we need the diaspora. We need ones in Jamaica to join in, because this is about our survival. It's about our rights.
My God. Dr. Taylor, Jamaica, we're in a serious problem. We are in a serious problem.
Well, we are, Jeffrey. And I'll say this, I am from Speartown, right? And I grew up among the roaring rivers, okay, wide and free, okay? I grew up, with maybe 4 or 5 miles of beach, wild and free. I can't access them now. And I make an analogy to what we see that has also proliferated in coastal communities now, is crime and violence. And a lot of people, back in the day, would think that crime and violence is confined to only inner city Kingston and Spanish Town. We have seen a proliferation of that now into the countryside. And most people, when it was coming, did not know or said that this won't impact me. Okay, and no one is going to come and hurt me. We see right now where it is actually impacting the entire island. You cannot wait until the whole thing breaks down to get involved. And I'm saying this about environmentalism. I'm saying this about your rights of access. You can't wait until the whole thing gone and then we landlock and then you start to fight. We are at the nexus right now. We're at a cross point right now. We're at a crossroad where if you join in the advocacy and let your voice be heard, call your consulate and ask them if the Jamaican laws allow you to have general rights of access. And if they tell you no, then you say, well, that's fundamentally a violation of my rights, and I want it, and I want you to do something about it. Okay? It can't be an exclusive economic zone. These kind of a development that exclude our people. It's a violation of your rights, and you have to get involved. We see, the gutting of affirmative action by the Supreme Court in the United States and the impact that will have, on socio-economic, societies and groups of people in low socio-economic status. That's going to impact that. And we know education is the equalizer. Well, when you look at economic spaces like what beaches are as well, and you say these things, can be equalizers. Everyone should benefit from them and conserve them. You can't stay on the fence on these issues of our time. You must get involved, because they will come back and bite you. So get involved. Don't get out of this apathy that we're all in and saying, boy, I can't do nothing. Yes, you can. You can do something. You have a voice. Let your voice be heard. You're official. You need to tell them. Don't come to America, come tell me about you want money to run campaign when you don't now give me my right. Do not do it. Everything has splashed up. One love Jamaica. Come to Jamaica and feel all right. And when me go to Jamaica, me can't feel all right because me can't go to the beach. What's hypocrisy? You're riding on the heritage of the country. You're riding on the vibration of the country. A rebuilding thing that, as I said, River was built by Rastaman. I live idle in them space there, and if you come in and roll and made it with Rasta, and then the man them take over the space. It's the same thing I'm going to Little Bench River right now. When Lions been on the whole of that space run by all kind of original Naya being the order. and then build the space where you want to displace the man there. It's the same thing going on Mommy Day. One of the most, big album that comes out of Rolling Stone, Keith Richards do an album called Wingless Angels. Is two compilation of it. Check it out. All of them Rasta Virgin and Sistering. You know what I mean? Maureen is one of my neighbors up in a state town. Our son is Chuck Berry. You know what I mean? And then build them album there. It used to be the backyard for Rolling Stone. And don't take my word for it. If you have a line to Mick Jagger or the other brethren there, so call them. They will tell you. So the product of Jamaica is built by Jamaican, and then the man them take it and displace you. So when you see people are swing niceness and swing song, but all of them resort, and I call none of their names, okay? They are complicit. All these Jamaican investors who, come to the US and get them proper education and go back home, or the foreigners them who left Spain and Mexico and Italy and all over the world and United States and go down there, go buy the land them and displace Jamaican. Where them can't beat Yasso, them can't beat Spain, and then them come to sit in the madness. Our culture them alive pan. Make we get revised. Make we tell them say we want access and we don't want them degrade the environment. Get involved higher.
Dr. Devon Taylor, thank you so much for coming on. Your voice is a powerful voice, and I hope our fellow Jamaicans will stand up and speak out, because we need the rights to the beach. We grew up going to the beaches, we grew up going to the rivers, and we need it. Dr. Devon Taylor, thank you for coming on to Make We Talk, sir.
Yes, man. Give thanks. And, hope your audience will tune in. Check out Jabem at jabem.org.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We're IG at Jabem. There's a petition that we have on change.org. We'll sign the petition. I mean, it's talking about, just check out the Save Jamaican Beaches. We also, GoFundMe if you choose to give us some contribution towards the legal cases, the One Love Jamaica Defense Fund,
Yes.
Beach Defense Fund. You can check us out there and join the movement. Let your voice be heard for change for rights.
Mm-hmm.
Give thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Devon Taylor. Thank you so much for coming on. Until you hear my voice again, I am Jeffrey T. saying so long on the Make We Talk program on WZPP 96.1 FM and WZOP 92.7 FM, and all my viewers and listeners on the Make We Talk YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Go to Make We Talk on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. I am Jeffrey T. saying so long. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless your entire family.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark the talk and you will see conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey. We're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.